my YouTube friends! There are a lot of things that you can do to make your camera look different. But what I'm going to show you today is how to create cool animated face cams unique to your channel for OBS. Oh, by the way, everything I'm going to show you today can be done for free. We have a lot to get to, so you know what? Let's get to it! This is what we're going to build. If you don't like the look, that's okay. What I'm going to show you will give you all the skills to design pretty much any face cam and animate it any way you want. We're going to start by creating our masks, and we're going to use Photopea. It's a free browser-based Photoshop clone. There is a link in the description so you can go and follow along with the tutorial. That is the best way to learn. Here we are in Photopea, and you can see over on the right, this is paid for by basically advertising, which is fine. That's why it's free. We're going to start a new project. We're going to use 1920 by 1080, which is whatever you stream at. If you stream bigger or smaller, you should set the resolution at that. We're going to go and change this to transparent because we don't want any specific background. We're going to go ahead and click create. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go and use this box tool right here. We're going to make sure that it is selecting a black color as the fill, but we don't want to use fill right now, so we're going to turn that off, and we're going to go and select black for our stroke. And what we're going to do is just create a box like this, and it doesn't look like there's anything there, so we'll go here and we'll just bump up our size, and we're going to make this outside box really super thin. So then we're going to want to go ahead and click here, and we're going to use the shift key to stretch it up here independent of the other sides, and we'll stretch it down here on the bottom, try to make it even, and we're going to use the arrow key to move it over so it's centered up. Now I'm going to go and select this again, and we're going to go into here, and I'm going to add some radius to the edges. We're going to start out with 65, and that pretty much looks like what we're looking for there. Now all I have to do is select this, make sure our background thing is selected, Control C, and then Control V. We just pasted another one, and we can just make this a little smaller, move it around to where we want it, and then once you get it kind of where you want it, you can use the arrow keys. And we can see that when we do this, it makes the tops much smaller gap than the sides, so we're going to go and use the arrow key to move it over this way. And then we're going to use the shift key to stretch it out a little bit and just make the edges clean on the side. And what we're going to do then is we're going to select our box creation again, and we're going to go here and we're going to just bump up our pixels here to make it a little fatter. And then you're going to notice a little bit of a problem here because our edges or our corners now seem not to fit. So that's not a problem. We can go over here and we're going to set them to 55 as the radius. And now we're going to notice that our corners kind of fit a little better. So now I'm going to select layer 1, Control C, Control V, and we've got another layer, and I'm just going to go ahead and shrink that layer up. Then I'm going to use the arrow keys to bring it all the way over here to the side edge, and I'm going to use the shift key to stretch it out here. And then the arrow keys just to center everything up. I'm going to select this right here. I'm going to go and adjust our stroke, make it a little fatter. And then I'm going to go ahead and adjust our radius to 45. And I think you guys can see the pattern here. Now our radius is adjusted. That looks pretty good. And it's just a matter of doing the exact same thing. Now we can continue to do this all the way down if we want. I'm not going to go any farther. I'm going to select this right here. We're going to Control C and Control V, paste another one, and I'm going to bring this down. We're going to do the same thing here, but the end result's going to be a little bit different. We'll bring it over to the end. We'll select here and then shift and stretch this out. Make sure it looks pretty even. I mean, that's kind of the main thing here, is just getting everything even. Use your arrow keys to fine tune it. In this case, I am going to go ahead and change the radius from 35 to 25, but I'm not going to change the thickness on our stroke. I'm going to leave it the way it is, and I'm going to save this out. This right here is going to be the piece that we animate. So I'm going to go ahead and click File, and I'm going to go to Export as PNG. And in this case, I'm just going to name this Border. And then in order to save this, you don't know where it's saving it to, so go ahead and click here. We're going to select this device and give Photopea access right here. You can do it every time or whatever you want to do. You can basically go to the folder that you want. This is where I want to be, so I'm going to go ahead and select save. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the center to this, just so I can show you a little bit of a different way that we can use this as well. I'm going to go to File, Export As. We're going to export this as a PNG, and we're going to call this one full and save. And then the next thing we're going to do is take that center box. We're going to make the stroke go away like that. And we're going to turn off all of these. And then we're going to go to File, Export As, PNG. And we're going to call this one Camera. And we're just going to save it to the same folder. So it's that simple to create all the masks we need. The last piece that we want to create is something that's going to actually animate our mask. To do that, we're going to go ahead and remove all these. We're going to go up to Layer. We're going to go to New, Layer. And then we're going to go over here to our gradient. And you can see we get this gray to black gradient, which is great. You can use that if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and double click and modify our colors. I like blue, but I want it to be a lighter blue, something like that. And on this end, I'm going to use my yellow color, and we want it to be kind of muted, so something like that. And there we go. And now I can just drag this like this and get the kind of look that I want. Now you can make big drags and have it like this, so there is a lot, but I find that the actual animation works a lot better when you use something like this. So that's what I'm going to use. Now we also want to save this out a little bit differently, so I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Export as PNG. And here I'm going to change this so it's 4K. So we're going to do 3840, and if you just click off, you can see you're going to get to 2160. And that's how we're going to save this out, and we're just going to call this gradient. And we'll click here, and we'll save. And that is all the assets that we need to create our animation. I'm going to jump into OBS and show you how these work so that you're going to understand how we animate them. And it's going to take just a moment. So here we are with a simple scene. What I'm going to do is, in this particular case, I'm going to duplicate this scene because I want to show you something that is kind of important. I'm going to duplicate it and click OK. So now we've got a scene 1 and scene 2. On scene 2, I'm going to right click on our scene and go into filters. I'm going to click the plus, and I'm going to go to our image mask blend. And what I'm going to do is drop this down, select the alpha mask. We're going to browse, and we're going to go to our image mask blend. That's the full one that we created, which this could be used with zero amount of actual animation or editing or anything like that. You could just use it like this. So if we do that, and you can see what we get. So there you go, you can see what we get. If I go into scenes, you can see we still have a regular view. So this is the perfect example of something that you would use as a nested scene. So if I create a new scene right here, and we click the plus, and I go into our scene, and I select scene 2. There we go. Now we can use this camera box and put it anywhere we want like that. Now the reason why I'm doing it this way is because if we applied our filter directly to this one, all of the cameras would have the exact same filter. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go over here into scene 2, and I'm going to remove the filter. If I go into scene 1 and I select the camera and I go into filters and I go into image mask blend and I select the full right here and I click close, you're going to see that it looks exactly the same. This is what we get here, and it's what we get here. I have it cropped in here, so I have to uncrop it. But if you just apply it directly to that camera, it's going to modify everywhere that that camera is used. If you apply it to the scene, then you can reuse that scene in other places and shrink it down so it looks like this, but you can still reuse the standard camera without the face cam. Now all we need to do is animate our masks. But first, I work really hard to try to create content that I think you're going to enjoy. Sometimes I hit and sometimes I miss, but it's really hard to know for sure. And that's where you can really help me out. If you're enjoying this video, leave it a thumbs up. And if it's not your cup of tea, it's perfectly fine to leave it a thumbs down. Now, if every single person watching this video right now leaves it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I'm definitely going to know whether this is the kind of content that you want to see. So thumbs up or thumbs down right now. Thank you very much for helping me out. Let's get back to the video. We're going to animate our masks with DaVinci Resolve. It's a free editing software that anyone can use. There's a link in the description so you can download it and follow along. Here we are in DaVinci Resolve. We're going to just create an untitled project. We'll go over here into the editing and we're going to drag our assets in here, the border and the gradient. Now what I like to do is drag the border down here into our thing. So it gives us the standard of 1920 by 1080. So if we go into File and we go into our project settings, we can change all this up so it's 1920 by 1080 HD. Now we want it to be 20 frames per second, so we're going to change up this so it is 30 frames per second. We got our playback frame rate at 30 frames per second, so we're good there. We're going to go ahead and click Save. Then we're going to drag this gradient down into our video 1 spot. What we're going to do is rotate our gradient. So we'll select it and we're going to rotate it and you'll see what happens here. That's a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of center it up so it will be at its most sideways. And then we're going to zoom it in. So now when we rotate this, we just want to make sure that we're not seeing any edges at all. So we're rotating, 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 and we don't want to see any edges. So that's going to be the basis for our animation. We can go ahead and set this at 0. And now we can create the length that we want just by stretching this out or whatever, however we want to do it. We can actually remove the border by clicking on the border PNG, right clicking and going to cut. It's a matter of how slow we want our animation to be. We can make it 4 seconds. We can make it 8 seconds. Right here, we're at 6 seconds. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make it 6 seconds exactly. So we've got 6 seconds. I'm going to drag this over so our length is exactly 6 seconds. All we have to do is animate it. When I select here, we are at the 6 second point. I want to go ahead and rotate this 360 degrees and click this button right here. Then what I'm going to do is take my playhead, move it to 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to set our rotation to 0 degrees. So there we go. It's going to rotate 360 degrees all the way to the end. What we're going to do now is go into Fusion, which is this button right here. And you can see Media Out is what we're going to see on the screen. Media In is the assets that are currently in our scene right here. And we're going to add an asset over here. So basically what we're going to do is go ahead and take our border. We're just going to drag it in here. We can connect that by going like this. And so you can see that it looks a little wonky. Don't worry. When we go back over here, we can see what it looks like. But here's where the problem begins. You can see that our mask is rotating right along with our output. That's not going to work for us. We're going to send this all the way to the first frame. So we know that we have our thing on the first frame here. And then what we're going to do is go back into Fusion and we're going to add a node here. Right click on here and we're going to go to Insert Tool and we're going to go to Transform and Transform. And there we go. So now we've added a transform and our playhead is at frame 0 as you can see right here. So our transform is going to control what our mask does. So in this particular case, our mask angle is 0 at frame 1, which is perfectly fine. That's what we want. We're going to go ahead and set our playhead right there. Now what we want to do is take it all the way to the final frame. And here's where you're going to see weird problems because this doesn't actually go all the way to the final frame. So what I'm going to do is expand this out just a hair, just an extra frame or two so that it goes all the way to there, right? And then I'm going to make sure that we have our playhead set on that so it's red. And then I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to select our transform and I'm going to go minus 360. So basically we're spinning this backwards at the same rate that the other one is spinning forwards. And what that should give us is this staying in place. Try it and there we go. So now we can see our gradient spinning and animating that background while everything else stays in place. What we don't want is to have any extra time here because what will happen if we do is it will kind of get a jitter and pause at the end. So we want to go ahead and just make sure we shrink this up so that it gets the whole way around. And there we go. And we can see that we've got it animated. It looks pretty cool. Now all we have to do is export our animated border. So what we're going to do is go over here into the export tab, and we're going to call this Facecam border, and we're going to set our location where we want our Facecam border to be saved. Now we're going to go down here, QuickTime. We're going to select the codec as uncompressed. We're going to select the type as BGRA 8-bit. The A stands for alpha. And then we're going to go ahead and drop this down. We're going to select 30 frames, 3x2, and we want to select export alpha. All of these things are extremely important if you're going to want to use it in OBS. So this is how you have to have it set. You go and add it to the render queue, and you just render it out. It takes just a few seconds, and it's already done. So let's go ahead and add this into OBS and set up our awesome face cams. Here's where we left everything off at. I'm going to go ahead and right click on cam. We're going to go to filters, and I'm going to remove this filter right here. So you're going to see that it restores all of our cameras back to their original glory. Now this is going to be a little more complicated because we're going to actually be putting two different things in here. It's really not that bad. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to go into scene 2. We have our camera in here. I'm going to go and just drag our video on here. Right here, Facecam border. And there we go. That little animation is going and doing its thing. You can see it spinning around. All we have to do is add a mask to our Facecam. But you just saw it disappeared. Right click on it, go to properties, and select loop, and OK. And now it will stay up, it will loop, and we can see if we see any of that little snappy in the middle, and it doesn't. It's going around totally smooth. It's got a really cool animation. And like I said, if you make the clip longer, this will go a lot slower. If you make the clip shorter, it will go faster. So you can control the actual speed of your rotation and your animation. But what we're going to do here is we're just going to set this up as a nested scene. We're going to go to cam, and we're going to go to filters, and we're going to click the plus, and we're going to go into our image mask blend, click OK. We're going to go here and select our camera. And if you remember correctly, our camera was just the thing. Now why isn't it showing up? Well, we have to drop this down and select alpha channel. So there we go. Now we have that center mask. We're not even going to have to line it up. We just click close, and there we go. Everything is all set. So when we go into scene 3, where we use scene 2 as the center point, you can see our camera mask is in here. It's connected. It's all one piece. If we go over here, you're obviously able to move the mask and the camera around independently. And the problem you're going to see is we just applied that mask to our camera. So when we go into scene, you can see we've got it applied there. Now the easiest workaround, like I said, is you can use the scenes and you can add filters to the scenes. But then you kind of have to put the mask in one scene and the camera in another scene, and then combine those two scenes and then use that as a nested scene. And that seems pretty convoluted. So the other way that you can easily do it without negatively affecting this is a pretty simple plugin. So we're going to go back over here, and I'm just going to delete this camera right here. So we're going to go ahead and remove it. And so now we just have our face cam right here. I'm going to go to filters, and we're going to remove that filter right there. And then we're going to go into our scene 2, and I'm going to click the plus, and we're going to use a plugin called Source Clone. And Source Clone will clone any source. So we're going to go ahead and grab this, and we want to clone a source, our camera. So we're going to select the camera right here. We do want the audio, so we're going to leave that there. And then we're going to click OK. Now this creates another instance of our camera that's totally separate from this one. So we can right click on this one, and we can apply filters to it by going here and the mask blend, and we're going to go and add our camera right there, and boom. Oh, we did forget one piece. We're going to go and select the alpha channel, and there we go. And now we've got our source clone with our cropped image, but our original is the same. So there's a link to Source Clone down below. It's really easy to install and use. And now you can clone your camera as many times as you want. So if you've got 5 different scenes with 5 different masks, You can create each scene nested, so it's like this. And then you can bring that nested scene in here, so you can manipulate it and move it all together. Animated masks. That simple. Pretty cool. Now, I didn't create a masterpiece of the Facecam world here. I created something super simple to demonstrate how it's done. You can use any sort of tools to create your black shapes that are going to become your mask. And the only limit is your imagination. Now, is there something that I left out here? Let me know about it in the comments. And if you want to learn more about nested scenes, you should check this video out. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks to help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Feyrer Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.